Hello everybody, welcome to Bass and Bonsai. This is how you do it. Big, giant, largemouth bass. And oh yes, she's a kisser. Mwah. Hello everyone, welcome to the show. This is more of just talking about, wrapping up this season, what I've learned, and hopefully you guys learned if you watch the channel. Maybe that we didn't already know, or maybe that we knew and we just kind of, assured ourselves of what we know does work and what doesn't. So we did a lot of different things this year, but we mainly focused on some BFS baits, a couple different rods I picked up, and then on the bigger end we went with some of the bigger baits. We did the chatterbaits and stuff like that. So let's jump into this and let's get right to it. As far as rod and reel type things, the only really big thing that happened this year for us as far as trying, I got the Tetton 661 in and love that rod. It's a versatile all around, lightweight rod, but it will throw some big stuff. I threw a 1/2 ounce spinnerbait, caught several bass, 3/8 ounce spinnerbait, stuff like that normally you wouldn't think with a light action rod. And believe it or not, if you go back and look on the videos, if you've seen it, this Tetton will throw the big Whopper Plopper 130. Not really the best thing, rod suited for the job, but it will do it. And I will talk about this reel. It's about the only other thing. It's the first time I've tried a Metanium, and I will tell you, this is probably the smoothest reeling reel I've ever owned. Palm's a little big compared to what I'm used to, little stuff, but most all reels on the market other than the newer Aldebaran, maybe the old Aldebaran Shimano 50 series and the new Revos, it palms real well. Awesome reel, awesome rod. The rod only gonna set you back $100. The reel, that thing's expensive. But I'd recommend, if you can afford the Metanium MGLs, the newer or even the older one, the 2013 Metaniums are still the same frame, overall the same. The spool's a little different, maybe a couple little changes here and there. Awesome reels. If you don't own a Tetton, check out my Tetton videos. I'd recommend those. So, what did we learn? Alright, so when it comes to the bait, and the baits we've used this year are pretty much the same we use every year. There's no real new bait, but we did kind of fine-tune some of the baits. Now the biggest thing you guys are probably going to wonder about, at the beginning of the season I started with the chatterbait shootout, right? The jackhammer versus the Z-Man original, had the black and blues. Now the only thing I will say about the jackhammer, that's the only one I bought. That's the only color I had. For some reason, black and blue just didn't seem to work as well this year as it did last year. But having said that, the days it did work, and even with since I've been testing out this jackhammer, I can honestly say, in my opinion, that I don't see any advantage over the jackhammer over the Z-Man original. The only advantage would possibly be the hook is a little better, I'll give it that. So your overall hookups and stuff like that would probably be the same. I feel I still lost some fish on this. They both, I feel, start up about exactly the same. I honestly cannot tell a difference when I cast either one on how they feel, initial startup or while reeling. A lot of guys swear up and down that this one you can tell and it's just way better, but guys, look at the design. It is too closely designed. The heads are almost identical other than the eyes. You're going to tell me you can feel a huge come on. That's in your head. But while doing that, and I will have to thank Danny, who suggested this, and Trey for being part of Omega Custom Tackle making these. While I was testing the two Z-Mans out to see if it's worth buying or not, and just so we're clear, 3 times the price for this on the original? No. I still recommend the original. Plus, that Bayou Crawl color, it's the only one you can get it in, it's a Z-Man original. That color right there is just the best overall color in the waters I fish. Until this thing. Now, this thing had its days and then some days it didn't with the gold blade. But this is the Omega Custom Tackle Shellcracker. The color. It's their Rapture jig. Now see how they do that with the swivels? That is the only company that I've seen doing quite that. And what I wanted to talk about and why I like this bait so much, it seems to start up, I can't really tell a huge difference. It seems to start up just about as fast as the other ones. But what this thing does is almost kind of hunt or, you know, walk the dog. Like it will turn when you pause it and pick up the pace, or, you know, when you change your retrieve or pause it and then pick it up. It doesn't just kind of stop and then go. It has the most back and back, you know, side to side action out of the chatterbaits I've tried. This color, that's the Shellcracker color, the Rapture jig, but this color seemed to have its earlier spring was when it was really on fire. Kind of midsummer it slowed down, but like on cloudy days and stuff like that, it really seemed to work good. And with that trailer specifically, but I, you know, had luck with other trailers, and we'll talk about trailers later. But the other thing I found out, other than Omega Custom Tackle, check them out. You can get them on Tackle Warehouse, but you can't get the custom colors. You got to go straight to Omega Custom Tackle's website. But one thing I found out while trying to do shootouts and see which is the best chatterbait, there's really not a best chatterbait style. I mean, if you got the original Z-Mans or the jackhammer, they've talked about Picasso, a few others, and the Omega Custom Tackle. What I'm finding is sometimes the blade color and the overall color of the chatterbait, I think, is more important than which chatterbait you're using. So, for example, say if you are fishing a Z-Man original, you know, chartreuse or white, and you know, you get the cheapest chatterbait you can make. If it's close to the color they're just wanting that day, and some days it's different. Some days they like that brighter color, some days they want a more natural look. Real cloudy days I like the gold blades. Most of the time you can get away with just a black blade. You don't need a silver blade, but I've seen days where it seems like a silver blade with kind of a natural green color seems to be what's working, or white. So I would suggest, if you are kind of like I used to be, I just had a few chatterbaits, and I figured, man, if they're not hitting that chatterbait, they won't hit any of them. But that is not the case. You can definitely kind of fine-tune your chatterbait game. I'd recommend maybe a couple different brands. I recommend just getting the Z-Man Originals in a few different colors, you know, maybe white. I also, if you guys remember the whole black and blue with the gold blade, I still think that thing, there's something said about that bait too that really worked awesome year before last. This last season not as well, but this color kind of was what kicked in this season, and seemed to, when nothing else would work, that would sometimes with a green trailer, but that yellow belly just seemed to work. So we learned that with our chatterbaits. I recommend the chatterbaits. I still recommend the Z-Man Original, but I also recommend to get a few different Omega Custom Tackle. That Shellcracker, and maybe another color or two from Omega Custom Tackle, and then play with your trailers and all that. I got big things planned for this next season. I'm going to continue on with the chatterbaits, but I'm going to start trying different trailers. You know, you've probably seen that all I've tried to do is imitate crawdads, and I've usually got something like this, Reaction Innovations. I've been working on trailers. Still don't have a great one. That's the Bass Pro Shops Reaction Innovations. They're a Smalley Beaver. This one's a little chewed up, and that's why I'm trying to work on one that won't get chewed up as easily. And the one thing I will say about the that I found I don't like as well in the jackhammer is that actual keeper. When these baits, they just tend to rip off, and it would be real good for Z-Man Elastec stuff, but for the traditional plastics, it tends to just fall off, and then you can't get it back on, you know, to where the Z-Man original one, like when it pops off that and it'll be like that, you can just tend to, it goes right back on and stays on and doesn't tear as easily, you know, and you can catch several fish usually with one of these. And that's the one that I tried this year, if you guys remember. the riot baits, ordered several different colors. I'm not a big fan of these anymore. They're not horrible, but I think the Reaction Innovations is still overall, or the knockoff Bass Pro versions, just the way they have the ribbing seems to overall just do a little better than these. And it could be all in my head, but as far as crawdad trailers on your chatterbaits. Okay, I'll jump real quick to the biggest thing that surprised me this year. Now, I was catching some bass, and the rattle traps did kick in. Like when I needed a go-to moving search bait, it seemed like these, once that water got any kind of depth to it, especially in the grass, that the rattle traps just, you know, this color right here, Toledo Gold, but sometimes the white, just seemed to, you know, catch me the bigger fish and when I needed a good bite. Well, I lost this, the whole snap thing, if you guys haven't seen that video. Didn't check my snap, you know, the knot. Lost my Excalibur 1.5 ounce. Well, while looking, I found some 1/2 ounce, and I also figured out that Booyah, their hard knockers, are the same bait as what the old Excaliburs were. Well, before I get any 1/2 ounces in, I got a couple of 3/4 ounce from up at Rogers Sporting Goods, and wow, was I surprised. There's not a huge difference in size, if you guys can make that out. Not a big difference in size, but man, this bait, I had the best day I maybe had ever for bigger type bass, you know, bigger size bass, but definitely the best day I've ever had on a rattle trap with this, and caught some big bass. Also, I don't know if it just so happened I had that one tied on or not, but went down a strip pit and just was catching them almost one right after the other. Probably the most consistent bass bite I ever got on also was on this thing. So if you guys have never tried, first of all, Booyah, the hard knockers, get you some. If you know, traditionally fished with smaller ones, I recommend at least getting the, you know, 1 or 2 in a 3/4 ounce, and just to try them. Awesome baits. Now, let's talk about kind of what I've learned also. And people have asked me all the time, you know, once you start buying mega bass, like, are they worth it? If you've seen me, did a lot of topwater videos, but I also bought some cheap eBay ones, and these things are super cheap, very similar. If you're just throwing them out there and popping it and there's a bite going, these will do the same thing these will. Now, I added a tail. They don't come with that. I had to redo this tail anyway. These were originally red hooks, now they're gold. I probably need to buy new hooks so they're gold or red again. But yes, the mega bass, and the only way I can explain it, all mega bass poppers, the Pop Max, Pop X, except for maybe the baby Pop X. I haven't really tried it, so small, to see what the way they walk. Walking the dog is key for my poppers. I walk the dog more than I pop them. These will still walk the dog, but when a mega bass popper walks the dog, it not only does this, it twists as it does it. So it kind of flashes the side of whatever color it is. And I think that little bit is what will help you getting hits, and then see how the cutout for the mouth. Just a little bit of difference that no other popper has is why I think these, if you can afford them, yeah, you know, maybe you don't need every one, every color, but I would suggest picking up 1 or 2. Now, I would recommend anybody get these, especially if you go fishing with kids and people that don't fish all the time, and just a popper that will work, catch fish. Hooks are good enough to, you know, land fish. They seem to be holding up pretty good. They're show a little sign of rust where I put them up wet, but they're still fine. There's nothing wrong with those cheap eBay ones for no more than what they cost. And of course, the whopper plopper. I'll use this one, but the big whopper plopper, we caught a few of the biggest fish I caught this year were on the big 130. I recommend the 130, and then this little guy. Probably the only really 2 sizes you need. This little one will catch little fish. That big one will catch little and big fish. Now, you can get the other sizes if you feel the need. I'd recommend a few colors. I'm not a big fan of black. I feel if you've got a white one and when it's still almost dark, that just a solid color, they can see the silhouette just fine. But I added this tail to mine so I can slow down. You know, I can throw it out there and kind of like I would a popper, just wiggling and jiggling, and while it's sitting there, you know, they see that. It may get you, maybe not the big monster one, but it'll get you a few smaller fish bites. And but this size tends to, I think, work as good as all of them except for the bigger one. You know, I think they make a 160 now or whatever, but you only need the 130, and then I recommend this one for smaller fish. But the whopper ploppers do work. Now I only have this size and this color. I need to get a more natural colored one, because once that sun pops up, I feel that your white or your black don't work as well as, like, say, just a natural, something with a little green, maybe just a little touch of chartreuse, but a more natural colored fish looking bait. All right, what else? All right, I'll talk real quick also about Z-Man stuff in general, but I'm putting a full video out about the Elastec and, you know, how to rig them. You can kind of see how I got this one rigged for a wacky rig. But these baits right here, these zinkers, and I'll put out a video and I'm going to show you my thoughts on zinkers and TRDs and, you know, the finesse worms and all that. But this color right here, watermelon and white, and almost any bait, soft plastic, whether it's a Z-Man product or not, that is one color you all should have. It just, most of the time it works. It resembles a baby bass and several other things that are out there swimming around that bass eat. And it's a good bright color. It works in, you know, clear water because it looks kind of natural. Two natural colors put together, they're fairly bright, but it also works in dirty water. All right, be looking forward to these other videos coming out because they're more in-depth. This is just the overall end of the year type thing, what I'm looking for next year. Now, you saw me, I know it's bass and bonsai, but we occasionally stop and smell the crappie and crappie fish for a while. This right here, this head that I had a hard time finding, I finally found roughly the same weight from Bass Pro Shops is where I found them at. They say 3.5 grams, but these things actually weigh, I think they're 2.7 and 8 grams is what this one weighs, and the ones from Bass Pro Shops. But then that little slider that I think it's Charlie Brewer sliders, that's their is that the 2-inch one? But they also make a 3 for bass and a 4 like for bass and walleye. And I'm gonna go more in depth on for next year. I've got some already ordered. I'm gonna buy more bigger jig. We're gonna start doing a little more into swim baits, just for the fact that if crappie are tearing this up, if I upsize this, bass should also. Now I've caught bass before on and I'll show you this bait that I also catch them on. The Yum swimming dinger is an awesome bait also. It's kind of just a long worm swim bait, but that thing also works. And you notice the color, you know, watermelon with white. Awesome color, awesome bait. But the success I've had with this in the last couple years and with the crappie now, I feel I need to get back into swim baits a little more. Especially I've been watching Tactical Bass and those guys, you know, talking about using the swim baits. And Key Tech is a popular one, but I'm going to stay away from Key Tech. I got some different Z-Mans ordered. I'll show you those also. I want something that'll last. I want something I can throw out and catch 15 or 20 fish before I even think about switching out the soft plastic. That's just what I've gotten used to. And actually, these are so small. And with crappie, even though they're the normal soft plastic, these sliders tend to last a long time, you know. Key Tech, however you pronounce it. I love their crazy flappers, but those things are falling apart right and left. 1 or 2 fish, and it's like I put a new one on. It gets old if you really get on a good bite with those. But I've never really been on a swim bait bite. And I may get to try some Key Techs, but I've got I'm gonna do, like I said, the sliders I'm getting in a 3 and 4 inch. I got a couple coming from Bass Pro Shops. They're generic house brand. And I'm gonna work on a few different heads. I got the Mega Bass with the little propeller. Those ordered. I've got a few different things coming down the line. They actually also, same company that makes these makes like a little weedless jig version to try with these, and the bigger one. So I'm going to try that. And they also make a 5-inch worm that I'm going to try. It's got the little round appendages, each, you know, look like a bunch of little balls put together to make a little 5-inch worm with a tail on it. So anyway, that's pretty much it. What we've figured out for this year, and be looking forward to videos as this stuff comes in. I'm going to show you what we're going to try for next year. Still, we're going right back out with our, you know, what I call the usual suspects. We'll be throwing these same chatterbaits up in the shallows and in and around grass, you know, not in the crazy deep water. Once we get deeper, we're going with the rattle traps. Of course, I always throw a square bill. The square bill bite hasn't been that great this actually the last couple seasons. there's been so much grass, like where I go and where the fish tend to be, it seems like it's grassy and it's finding a good, you know, I've got on a couple times, like twice this last year I got on a couple square bill bites, but not like I had the year before. I think it was the year before, and like the first year I was recording, and a year or so before that, man, the square bills were on it, and it's kind of slacked down a little bit. Of course, TRDs, you know, are normal soft plastics. We'll get more into, be looking forward to, you know, what's the difference, say if you're a bank fisherman or boat fisherman, you know, what different baits you should be using or how you should approach bodies of water, that kind of thing. I'll tell you my thoughts on that since I've been, you know, on both ends. I've fished for several years from the bank and several years in a boat. And what else? A lot of stuff. Also, what I recommend, I guess, baits wise, as far as the guy fishing from the bank, guy fishing from a boat, you know, should you be spending a lot of money? I don't know, comment below if you guys want my idea of, even though I'm not going to buy it, what I recommend, kind of like a buyer's guide. I've seen they're doing on tactical bassing. Maybe I should do it. I could give you a quick rundown of what, if I had money, if you guys would share this channel and make me some money, I'd buy some stuff and we end up giving away in giveaways. All right, guys, I'm getting out of here. I got to actually go change out and lift some weights. That's all the weights I got for now. But anyway, get out of here. Go bass bonsai for yourself, and thank you for watching. Exactly how we do it. Big largemouth bass. Let's see if it'll jump. That is a beauty. We're gonna jump. Yeah!